Alright guys, so I'm actually back with a more serious topic today. I'm going to be talking, and actually I just put this on over my dress because I wanted to switch it up for the video. But I'm going to be talking about why I quit caffeine, and this is actually a very serious topic. I was experiencing some things, some like bad side effects from caffeine for many years. There's been so many videos I've done over the years that I've talked about my evolution as a human, and I'm going to be doing a couple more health videos too. I went from having severe autoimmune to reversing my autoimmune, which is major, and I did it through diet and lifestyle change. And so I'm going to talk about that in a different video. This video is not about that. This video is about quitting caffeine and why I did it. So why did I do it? I'm going to get into all the reasons. There was a book that I actually read about caffeine about a year ago, and I'll insert the picture of the book. It's an Audible that I listened to. I don't have a ton of time to read, so Audible works really great for that. But caffeine just has, and I have like all the notes on here, so I'm gonna be looking at my phone. Don't think I'm ignoring you guys. But caffeine has so many like side effects that I wasn't even aware of. You know, I was drinking energy drinks, taking fat burners during my time. You guys can look back on all my videos from the NPC, you know, prepping for shows, things like that. And I never felt 100% good. And I started to notice it was in 2020, let me let Louie in. It was actually in 2020 when I started feeling really tired, like super fatigued after drinking coffee. So I'd wake up feeling really good, and then I'd go get my morning cup of coffee, and all of a sudden I'd feel super dehydrated, fatigued. I would drink tons and tons of water, never felt hydrated. My mouth was always dry. And I was like, this is not normal. And I started developing really severe anxiety to the point where it was really hard to function. It was almost debilitating. I would go somewhere and I'd just have racing, like panicky thoughts, and my heart would be beating out of my chest. My mouth would be completely dry. I'd feel like I was gonna pass out. And it just was really unhealthy. And I talked to my therapist about this, and she was like, cut caffeine, you need to cut caffeine. And I did not cut caffeine at that moment. Instead, I got this book off Audible, and I wanted to listen to all sides of the story, and I did. And I actually went caffeine free for 2 weeks back then, a year ago, and all my symptoms went away, and I felt really good. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And then of course I went back on caffeine. So I feel like it's an endless cycle. But this time I think I'm really ready to cut it out, and I'll explain why. So first off, it is very much a diuretic. It's gonna push out minerals, especially magnesium and B vitamins. So you need these to function. You need magnesium for so many different mechanisms in the body. Look it up, you can Google it. And B vitamins are absolutely essential to health, to all mechanisms in the body, from hormonal to metabolism to how our brain functions. And not to mention, we need vitamin B in order to produce serotonin, which is what keeps us happy and not anxious. And that was exactly what I was dealing with, was weird random bouts of depression and anxiety. And so to me, it was a no-brainer, no pun intended, to cut the caffeine for brain health. But there's a lot more. So we're gonna get into what else happens with caffeine. So first off, caffeine is addictive. It is technically a drug, so it is a legal drug, which is really crazy to think about. You know, so many people drink caffeine, they drink numerous cups of coffee every single day, and it's something that kind of is just a normal everyday thing. It's kind of like alcohol. Alcohol is so normalized, but it is also a depressant. It is a form of medication, if you will. Like, it's a form of a drug. People use it to suppress, you know, feelings. They use it to relax at night, you know, all these things, and it doesn't make it healthy. Same with coffee. Coffee is a drug. It is something that people become dependent upon, and when you go off of it, you get something called withdrawal. So you get caffeine withdrawals, which is a typical side effect of going off of a drug. This to me was so eye-opening when I reread the book and I listened to this particular chapter on how caffeine affects us and that it is a drug. I was like, I don't want any of that in my body. On top of that, it is a pesticide. I don't know if you guys know that caffeine is actually a plant pesticide. The plant produces it to ward off insects and to kind of keep things at bay from eating it, which to me is a clear indicator, after going through everything I went through with autoimmune, to stay the hell away from coffee. It's not good for you. It is like a form of plant lectin, which is something that I avoid in my diet. So why would I not avoid it in the things that I'm drinking, which is also your diet? But why would I not avoid it in that too? So to me, I was like, you know what? It kind of tastes like dirt water. I don't know why I'm so in love with it, why I slither out of bed to the coffee machine every morning and drink my cup of coffee. It really doesn't make sense. On top of that, caffeine has a 12-hour half-life in the body. So if you guys have ever taken pharmacology or, you know, anything that you talk about half-life means it lasts in the body, its effects last on the body for 12 hours. That means that from the time you wake up, people usually stay awake for, I don't know, 12 to 18 hours a day. So if you're having a second boost, you know, later on in the day, you literally have the entire day. You go from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. I know I functioned this way for years and years and years. You're drugged on caffeine. On top of that, coffee is psychoactive. So it means that it changes your brain chemistry. It changes your perception of reality. When I took coffee out of my diet, my anxiety went away. It took a couple of days for my body to kind of regulate what was going on, but I started feeling better. My skin started looking better, and I realized I'm like, I really don't need this in my life, and it's actually causing so many health issues that good riddance, goodbye. Never gonna miss this again. Like, I'm not gonna go back to this because there's no benefit. What is the benefit? Making Starbucks richer? There's really no benefit to caffeine. Unless I was super, super, super tired and needed a cup to stay awake at work, even then, I just don't think I could go back to it after listening to this book. Again, I would encourage you guys to read this book. It is a really, really good book, or listen to this book. It is just so informative. It's really helpful to making a decision if this is something that you want to continue or if this is something you want to get rid of. Another reason I got rid of caffeine is the fight or flight response to ingesting caffeine. I noticed something that my triggers when I was dealing with my anxiety, I noticed that the two places I was really triggered by were malls and grocery stores. And one thing that was super common with each of those is every time I would go to the mall, I'd head to Starbucks first. That was the first place I'd go to get a cup of iced coffee, so I could shop with my iced coffee. And I noticed that this trend started, this whole thing is that, you know, I was drinking coffee before these two things. You know, when I was going to the grocery store, I'd swing by Starbucks on the way there, or I'd make a coffee here and take it with me because I just wanted something sweet to sip on because I'd put stevia in my coffee. These caused fight or flight to happen. So when you drink coffee, it stimulates your nervous system, your central nervous system. You can look all this up. You can listen to the book. It all goes into it on both, you know, both avenues. But it stimulates your central nervous system, which means that you are just like very like perceptive of everything going on around you, and to the point where it can be overstimulating for some people. It used to not be that way for me, but over time I started getting more and more agitated on coffee, I guess you'd say. Like, I just was a little too hyper alert, and you know, I would just, my heart would start beating, like someone would crash a cart into another cart, and I would just, like, it felt like my heart was beating out of my chest, and I just felt like I had to get out of there. Like, oh my gosh, like I just feel overwhelmed, overstimulated. So getting rid of coffee, it's only been 1 week, and I feel like my life has dramatically improved. I'm not feeling any of the negative symptoms that I felt when I was on coffee. And so for me, it's just really, really been very eye-opening. And the book says that it takes really 2 to 3 weeks for your body to fully kind of do a turnaround from coffee and heal and start to function normally. So for me, I cannot wait to get to week 2 and then get to week 3 and then smooth sailing from there. He said normally people relapse within the first 2 weeks. So that, I thought that was really interesting because people still have those negative effects going into like 3 weeks. And then after that, he said people are usually in the clear. And so I'm really looking forward to getting to that point because I feel like already my life has improved so much. within 1 week that I'm like, I can't wait to see what happens with continued abstinence from coffee. The next thing we're gonna talk about, I feel like there's so much to talk about with coffee, is dysregulated hormones, and especially DHEA and melatonin in the body. Melatonin naturally helps you to get to sleep. It has so many other benefits too. If you look up the benefits of melatonin, and also look up the benefits of DHEA, which is an anti-aging hormone. Coffee messes with all your hormones. It can throw all your hormones out of whack. It's an endocrine disruptor. It's also carcinogenic, which is crazy to me that it's even able to be sold. But it can mess with your DHEA and melatonin primarily, which is really scary because that means that we're aging ourselves quicker than we need to if we are drinking our daily coffee. Also, we're disrupting our sleep cycles. When you sleep, your body repairs itself. One crazy thing I noticed was when I went off coffee within 3 days, or it was within 2 days, I lost 4 pounds and I've kept it off. So that to me was like, wow, my body was probably so inflamed. And as soon as I got off coffee and was just drinking water, my body was like whoosh, and I felt so much better. I felt more hydrated, I felt more alive, and I just feel like my skin's more glowy. I just feel better. And lastly, we'll touch on the fact that it is a carcinogen. It has a lot of things in there that are like astringents, dyes that people use to dye leather. There's a lot of things inside of coffee that are just really kind of gross when you think about it. And so personally, I just don't want that type of stuff in my body. I've worked so hard on my body and I've worked so hard on my diet that I don't want one thing that isn't even that great tasting by itself. You know, it's only good because you put other stuff in it to mess all that up. Now, to not be the bearer of bad news, I'm going to give you guys some simple things that you can do if you're looking to kind of cut back on caffeine. Number one is either read that book or just do some research on the Googs. There's a lot of information out there though that says that coffee is really good for you. I, from personal experience, feel like, no, this is so not true, and had to seek elsewhere. But, you know, do what's best for you, do what you think is right. There's nothing wrong with experimenting and trying things out and seeing how they work. But if you're looking for a way to kind of start to cut back on your caffeine, one great way to do it is start to switch to green tea. This is something that a lot of people do, is they switch to like green tea, like matcha, or, you know, just plain old green tea. That's one thing that I started doing. You know, if I was a little tired and it was midday, I would do like a green tea from Starbucks. I don't do their matcha though because it has sugar in it, just so you know. I'm trying to be helpful, but I do just the green tea unsweetened, and I'll add a packet of stevia in there. But that is a way to start to cut back on your caffeine. That is a way to start to cut back and get rid of coffee in particular. So green tea, you could even do like black tea if you wanted to. Anything that's not coffee to start to move away from the coffee. And I wouldn't advise like energy drinks. I wouldn't advise like caffeine pills, none of that. Like, you don't need any of that, trust me. After the first 3 days, that's the hardest part, is the first 3 days. After the first 3 days, your body will start to heal itself, mend itself, and will start to function differently. So just hang in there and just know that it's gonna be worse before it gets better, more than likely, because you're gonna go through a little bit of caffeine withdrawal. But if you want to lessen it, that's something that you could definitely do, is drinking the green tea or finding another tea that you really like on your way to lowering that caffeine and getting off of caffeine altogether. So I hope this video was super helpful for you guys. If it was, give me a thumbs up. I normally do like beauty reviews, but I have done a lot of health stuff, and that's really what I was known for online, was talking about my health journey, because I've been through so much. And so as I learn new things, I like to share it with you guys. I know it helps a lot of people out there, and I don't love to talk about this stuff. It's not something that like lights me up and creates a lot of passion, but I know it's important, and that's why I do these videos for you guys. So hopefully this helps. I love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic day whenever you're watching this, and if you know someone who could use this information, share this video with them, and I'll see you guys later.